Yeah, so I just finished my artist talk. It's now a couple days after the actual event, and I had a chance for 2 days to kind of reflect and look back and hopefully get some response from the people who were there, who participated in the presentation. And you know, I had such a good time doing this talk, and even the preparation was quite funny for me. It took a while, you know. I spent about 2 to 3 weeks on trying to get the layout done for the power end of pose presentation. And I knew I wanted to bring in my experience as a bodybuilder, perhaps as a martial artist, my art and art practice, obviously, that has to fit in there. And I felt there was something missing. I didn't know, you know, I had artwork that still was somewhat completed, but I wasn't happy with presenting it just yet. And so it's not that I was looking for fillers. I was trying to find an idea to tell my story. And I wanted to relate to history, that there was a common tradition all the way back in earlier Western sculpture to today's bodybuilders and the poses and how they present themselves with the clarity of the muscle and the storytelling. Most importantly, the storytelling of that muscular physique being presented on stage. And the way I realized this was actually through my own Métis heritage. I wanted to bring in the oral traditions, the storytellings, and how powerful they are, and the way they connect with the imagination. When people ask me about my work, I really like to describe it as kind of imaginative realist. And there's an imaginative component to it, a fantasy component to it. However, sometimes those stories are rooted in history and based on actual events and facts. So I had to find a way of combining all three together. This is the idea, this is the thought that I wanted in the presentation. Now, 2 to 3 weeks in prepping about this, and you know, I was at wit's end, man. I had the layout, but I just was not happy. I had all photographs and things that I wanted to talk about. It made a lot of sense. And I really tried looking at the academic perspective of things in order to present this work. And I realized it wasn't me. Myself. If I did the presentation the way I thought it might have been, I don't think I would have had a good time. I would have hated it. And I think it would have came out very fake. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be genuine and natural and present who I was as a person, and as someone who had a passion for bodybuilding, someone who has a passion and learning about his Métis heritage, all at the same time. I wanted that to radiate to the audience. And it was important for me to get that radiation, to get that sense of humor, playfulness, and overall good time to the audience. This is the story that I wanted to tell. And if I did it right, as you guys hopefully will see in the video presentation, and then we had a good time, then I did the job that I was supposed to do. Yeah, it was very important for me, this presentation. I really needed to express myself in the way that I felt I should have been represented and presented at the same time. And that academic way just didn't cut it for me. It just wasn't working well. And like I said, I was at wit's end. I was 2 days before the presentation, and I was like, geez, something doesn't feel right. I didn't feel prepared, even though it took 2 to 3 weeks to do it. And I was getting the promotional work out there. I was sending out. I was happy with the promo work. It was something a little bit different design I was working on and so forth. However, when I had sent, I noticed the videos were actually getting a better response than than just the actual invite out on Facebook and some of the email messaging that I had done. And I noticed that there was a gentleman who I've known for quite a while now. He's worked with me in the past and doing some modeling work and so forth, posing for life drawing classes and things. And I've seen him perform on stage, and I noticed that he was interested, or not interested, but he clicked going on the invitation. And I was on my way to a little bit of a counseling session, and I noticed that he clicked going on the notifications coming to my phone, and I had pulled over because it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, that's what was missing. I needed a live model in order to describe, to show the people the life energy, the life blood, the work, the presentation of the muscular physique in its own natural life form. And that is what the kicker was. I needed that in order to tie all the things together. So I called Peter England up right away. He's a 7-year-old bodybuilder. He's got a long history. I recommend you check out his Facebook profile. It's got some interesting things there. But a 7-year-old bodybuilder came and modeled for my presentation. And this is where it was fun. It became very live and emotion with it. So as I called Peter on the phone, actually I left a message to give me a call because I didn't have his phone number yet, but he called me. I said, Peter, I said, in short, this is the story. This is what I want to do. I got 2 days to prepare. Can you be there for me? He says, well, yeah, I'm retired. Absolutely. I'm sure he had better stuff to do, but he actually made the time to prep. And what was nice is that Peter was already made. He was actually, I didn't have to make him into the presentation. He was already made. He was already built for the presentation. Because if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, on this video. If I'm correct, you are competing in Seattle, Washington for a competition, I think coming up in April here. So I wish you well during that competition, and it's for men 70 and over in that mature class. So I think you would do well. So I called Peter up and I said, okay, Peter, we got to set a time. I need to see how you look. We got to get lights and set up for you. I need to do a dry run of the presentation. But here's the thing. I got to now tweak my presentation that I had to form to his muscular physique. And I knew how to do that. It came natural right away. That night, I spent the 2 hours actually adjusting the presentation. The following day, Wednesday evening, I met Peter over at the Gordon Snell Gallery, and we started to work on the presentation. We spoke about things and how we want to present the work, how we presented the muscle group. I did a little bit of a prep video that you guys might have seen on my Facebook page. You guys, it's still there. You could check it out. Just look for me on the Facebook, and click a like too if you want. No problem there. And we did a couple dry runs through the presentation, and then there were some tweaks to made and so forth. So now 3 weeks down to this presentation, 2 days before the actual presentation, I had to make the adjustments. And that night came, I made the adjustments, and I couldn't sleep. I was actually nervous. And as I was thinking through the night, trying to relax, which is probably why I couldn't sleep, because I was thinking too much, how I wanted to present, how when I spoke to the audience and maybe told a joke, how they would respond to it, how they would react if they didn't respond to it. Looking at the audience's reaction so I could feed off that energy in order to change the presentation so people start enjoying themselves. I really need to know and understand this. So I started watching some comedy shows. Gabriel Iglesias, for one, seems like to be a master in doing that. Russell Peters was another comedy I watched and learned how to interact with the crowd and so forth. So I kind of took some of those variables and applied them to my own overall presentation. So I fell asleep, and then the morning came, and I had to get to work very quickly. I had to spend about 3 hours before the actual presentation came. And when the presentation came, I had to make a beeline to the Gordon Snellgrove Gallery. I promised that people, while I was doing the promotion, that I'd be there between 11 and 12 o'clock for kind of a pre-meeting to have people discuss and talk about the work and so forth, or just have a good time, just trying to get to know me better was the idea. But boy, did I have a hell of a time finding parking. I think a lot of people did that day. There must have been something else going on that day at the University of Saskatchewan. So I set up my pop-up banners that I use for different expo shows and so forth. I think people realize that, I've been at this career for a long time now. I'm not just a Master of Fine Arts student or a candidate, but I've been working at this for a very long time, and my name is out there, and I just want it to be more. I just want to get recognized more, because I do have a passion that I want to do. And while I was setting up in the morning, I had some great things happen, and I came to an actualization that, any of the preconceived ideas that I had were gone, and everything felt so much more natural, and I couldn't wait. I was so excited I could not now wait until the presentation. 12 o'clock comes. Peter's on his pedestal that we had set up for him. He's in his contrapostural pose. People are trickling, you could tell, and look at the look of the crowd, and hopefully the camera picks this up, that everybody's looking at Peter, and they're ignoring me because I'm not half naked. So I'm in a nice suit and tie, wearing my sash. Peter was the half naked one, oiled up in the corner with the spotlight. And obviously he's going to be the one getting noticed. But I hear people talking now, and they're looking at the banners, the pop-up banners that I had. They're looking for the place to find a sit, and they're just wondering what the heck is going to happen here. What is going on? And I like that kind of scene. I like it when people walk in, even including myself, when there's some hints there, but nobody's knowing for sure what's going to actually happen. So I get this nice introduction from Marcus, who's the director of the Snellgrove Gallery. 12 o'clock hits, so I'm getting called up. And right off the bat, I acknowledge the people that helped me support the actual talk. And you guys will see the list there. You guys will hear my voice say the actual people. So you'll need to watch the video for that to see. But definitely they were a big part of helping me complete my MFA program to this point. And while I was thinking about the show, as I was going through, right at the beginning, I did a little joke thing that didn't get a very response very well, because it made absolute no sense, and that was the whole point of it. It was not supposed to make sense. But blank are the following things that I like, and I randomly named off stuff that did not make sense whatsoever. And it was for me to get warmed up with my voice, so I could understand the project of my voice to the people and get the crowd audience. I heard a couple little chuckles, but not enough, not the response that I was looking for. And then as the presentation went through, I felt more warm to the crowd. And as I was speaking to the early classical period of sculpture and how it relates to the contemporary bodybuilding practice, to comparing Peter England to the animal kingdom, and then right to the final of my Métis heritage, speaking to the actual combination of works and influences from those periods. overall, it was a pretty good show. And there was one scene, and you guys will see it in the video here. There's one point where I could not stop laughing. It fit so perfect. The joke fit so perfectly. I swear I had people just peeing themselves just a little bit. There's a scene where I comment on one of Peter's poses, and he gazed at me and he looked at me, and all I could do was smile and laugh back. But yeah, he didn't look very impressed with the. He knew I was joking, but he didn't look very impressed. But hey, at least I got the audience laughing, so that was the whole point of that setup. You know, at the beginning of the video, you will see this. I had a special visitor, and her name is Allison Montgomery, and she used to be my art teacher in high school. I was in high school from 91, graduated in 95, so 90, 91, graduated 94, 95. And I know I took all my art classes from her, most of them. But there was something unique about her that I really enjoyed, and I really admired her. And I believe it was because she was a competitive bodybuilder. And she was the one that got interested in, not only did she get me interested in art and looking at things, but the physique itself. I remember getting a little gym membership at high school. She would be there at lunch training, and she'd be outperforming everybody, including myself, which was fine. But I knew that was the person to ask questions to. You could tell just based on the muscular maturity that she had developed for herself, that there was a lot of wisdom within that cellular tissue. I'll put it that way. So I remember asking her all these questions. I remember asking her art, and when high school was done, I remember seeing her at Ironworks Gym. I trained through Ironworks Gym throughout the years, and now my son even goes to Ironworks Gym. So it's a nice long tradition, and because of her influence and her inspiration and so forth, you know, I went into right after high school, I went into a photography and graphic design career for a couple years. I thought it was okay, I wanted something else, and what I did was actually pursue a personal training career and got certified for the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology, and for 9 years I worked as a personal trainer. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. That 9 years came, and I felt it was time to change, and I wanted to know what direction I want to go in, and obviously I felt right into the natural art of things for that, and very soon enrolled myself at University of Saskatchewan, graduated with my BFA in about 4.5 years. Keep in mind, I'm a single dad. I had to take certain times in order to perform those parental duties. However, and then pay for everything all at the same time. This came all out of my pocket. And there was the second years, the last 2 years of my university, I started getting the scholarship support from the Gabriel Dumont Institute, Training and Employment. And then when I got into my master's degree, same thing. I was getting scholarships and things to help me out. Don't get me wrong, they weren't just handed to me. I had to work very hard. Some of the process took 6 months in order to get the right words and the right package together in order to present myself properly. And so I did. That's exactly what I did, and I went for it. And was a recipient of some of the same awards quite a few times. So I had a lot of support there, and that was definitely one of them that acknowledged during my beginning of the presentation is some of the organizations that helped me out there. So I was quite proud of myself for that. So yeah, the scene with Alice in Montgomery, that was very heartfelt. I felt so. It felt so good for her to be there. I was just. It's been so long since I've seen her, and I've been wanting to tell her thank you and all these wonderful things that I was feeling about her, and now I finally had a chance to do that, and I did it. Like, this is my opportunity now. It's not going to happen again. It may not happen again. I'm doing it now. Whether if it was part of my presentation or not, it wasn't, but I did it anyway, and I'm proud that I did. So thank you, Allison Montgomery, for all your words. I remember you well. I very do. Very do. I really do. Yeah, such a good time. So my overall feeling with the presentation, I felt good. I felt comfortable. I felt natural speaking. And what else can I say about it? It was such a great presentation. I think I had, when I was putting the presentation together, I definitely had the mindset of the bodybuilder in developing the actual presentation. It took time, it took preparation. It wasn't thrown together in one night. And I started looking at, in a sense, like a future competition. Sometime in fall, I'm going to have my MFA exhibition. And in between that time, from now until the MFA exhibition, probably in September, I got to prepare for an oral defense with the work that I'm going to be submitting. And I also have to write a master thesis on the project as well too. So we got those different stages, just like in a competition, bodybuilding competition, to have that mindset for, to reach those goals and being the best at what you want to be best at. And just that thought alone sets that drive to succeed. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm so close. It's been 2 years now on this journey, and I'm just at that point where success is right around the corner. And I'm gonna walk away, first one in my family, with a master's degree. Something interesting to think about there. So this power and pose presentation is going to continue into my final exhibition. And the plan is that I'll have my various works set up in the gallery, obviously. It's going to speak about the physique, its philosophies, the muscular physique and its philosophies. I'm going to incorporate my heritage into some of the storytelling. And there's something I really want to do. And I'm going to start prepping for it right away. I'm going to start sending out the invitations. And is that I want to have a live bodybuilding show right in the actual MFA reception exhibition. And I'm going to figure out how to do that. And not just a bodybuilding show, but a discussion, maybe a panel discussion on the representation of the muscular physique in art. And I think we could generate some really good conversation and some really good entertainment all at the same time. I want it to be a continuation of the power and the pose talk that I just finished. Yeah. That's where I'm going to go. And I'm going to do it.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Oh, I'm going to put you in the spotlight for a second now that you're here.
Not like that you aren't.
No, not like that. Oh, what a fantastic day today. I tell you, I put a lot of preparation in this presentation, and I'm hoping if I do this right, you guys will leave feeling a little more happy. So before I get started, I just received a big surprise this morning. You guys might have seen, I just gave her a big hug. I recognized her right away. I just want to recognize one of my teachers from, I was going to say elementary school, but that's not the case. It was actually high school at Walter Murray Collegiate. I graduated in '95, and and I'm just going to refer to you by what I used to call you, Miss Montgomery, if you please can stand up. This, I was going to say girl, but this very girl, this girl was kind of the one who got me interested in both art, because you taught art at Walter Murray. So I've taken most of her art classes from what I recall. And she was a competitive bodybuilder at the time. She's the one that actually got me interested in bodybuilding and doing that type of physical work. And now that I look at it, you know, I'm going to start by what triggered my my MFA exhibit when I'm studying. But really, now that I think about it, I think you're really the reason, the inspiration behind that, pursuing a physical career fitness. And I don't know if you knew, but we used to train at Ironworks Gym together. And then from there, I actually went on to a personal training career for about 9 years. And I helped people enjoy the physical aspect of their bodies and so forth. And I remember just learning all these lessons and all these different techniques from you at the gym and at the high school gym at Murray. So thank you so much for being here. It made my day today. So, yeah. All right. So just going along with thank yous, there's actually a few people I just want to acknowledge very quickly, just a message of gratitude. I've had over the years tons of support. Sometimes I don't even ask for it and it just comes to me. Herc's Nutrition, Josh McGowan, who just recently opened up three stores here in Saskatoon, he graciously supported me by providing you people some gift bags. I have 5 of them here. I'm going to tell you right away how to get them. And if you reach to the front underneath part of your chair, if you pull up a sticker, one of those gift bags is yours. And there should be 5 of them. And if there's an empty chair, go ahead and reach to the side of one, and maybe there's... And you should see a Herc's Nutrition sticker there. So I get the chair then, right? The chair? No, I don't know if you get the chair. So you got one? Okay, so hold on to those. When you guys have them, come see me after the talk, and I will exchange your sticker for the bag, all right? He promised me that he was going to share his. He can share. He gets to do whatever he wants, so that's fine. Whoops. Agile Fitness and Anytime Fitness. These are friends of mine, Orlando and Sarah. I'll get into them just a little bit here in a bit. They weren't able to be here today, but I did want to give them a shout out as well too. The faculty professors here at the University of Saskatchewan in the Art and Artist Department, and the director of the Gordon Snell Grove Rally, Marcus, thank you very much. Now, I was asked to the point, well, why would you put that on? Why would you put the professor? They already know that. I'm like, well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I was like, well, isn't that ass kissing? I said, yeah. And if it gets me some extra brownie points, I'm going to go for it. So it worked out pretty good. Of course, Gabriel Dumont Institute. I got a couple of representatives here. We have Karen Schmann, from the director of the Gabriel Dumont Institute Publishing, and one of my colleagues, Ryan Nordmarken, who I work alongside with all day as well too. We've got Peter England here, who is our model. He won't wave high because he's in a serious pose stance right now. Yeah, give him a hand. But he will be available for questions afterwards. Okay, Peter, just let the audience know your age, if you don't mind saying.
I am 7.
7 years old. Unbelievable. And then Arthur and Judy Gingras, these are my parents. Some of you know my mom had passed away when I was about 30 years old, so about 9 years ago now. However, my dad is here. And I really don't know what to say, Dad. You've helped me so much. You helped me so much in the last 8 years on this academic career. And so I want to thank you very much. And I love you, Mom, very much too. So, blank are the following of some of my favorite things: turnips, gasoline, protein, doorknobs, drawing pencils, zinc, lentils, American Crew shampoo, complex carbohydrates, kale, flowers, Ziploc, bleach, rocks, 80s cartoons, toys, muscles, VELCRO, and basically I could go on and list a few more things, but really, frankly, there's a very high reasons for this introduction, but frankly, I don't think anybody will give a care, so we'll just keep on going. The three things, as you know, I'm an artist, so that's one good thing about me. I think the second thing good about me is that I have good oral hygiene. And the first thing that I've been told quite often is that I'm not an arsonist, so that works out really well too. During my presentation, we're going to look at the power and the pose. So I'm going to speak to what triggered my MFA studies in the representation of muscular physique in art. We're going to look at polycolitis, if anybody knows how to speak those old words, by all means shout it out, who is a mathematician, philosopher, and sculptor. We're going to look a little bit about bodybuilding and some of the history there. We're going to compare the animal kingdom of poses versus Peter England. And something that's been very true to my heart in the last little while is the representation of the METIS storytelling in the muscular physique. And then I'm going to bring all these elements together, hopefully for a good presentation. So a few years ago in 2011, my friend Orlando gives me a call. He was in charge of promoting he made a bid for one of the Saba competitions. He was in charge for promoting the Saba amateurs. And what he did was he invited four-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler to come over. And as we were talking about the project and what he wanted to do, he actually asked me if it would be all right, because I knew I was doing a lot of these muscular type paintings and so forth, if I would paint something to be presented to the best poser award that went on stage. And in the end, we had it videotaped. It was on, what do you call that, SAS Max on demand. The video was on SAS Max on demand, and next to the actual, I think, Grey Cup champions, it was rated the second highest rating of the actual programming that was going on during that week. So I had this luxury of meeting Mr. Jay Cutler. Here he's sitting about 285 pounds. Me, I'm about I think about 220 here, roughly. Just another side profile of him. This was actually one of the images I got a chance to work with that was not copywritten, so I was able to actually take and influence the painting that I actually produced for the actual show. And in the end, I got on stage, and I'm probably going to exaggerate here, but I got on stage at the, what's the theater called now downtown? TCU Place. TCU Place, thank you. And I presented this painting in front of, I'm just going to guess, about 1,000 people on stage. And the award winner was actually a gentleman who didn't place at all, but I liked the way he posed, I liked the way he did his presentations and how he told that story on stage. And then his name was Malcolm Clark. At the end of the competition, when it was all done and Jay did his guest posing and so forth, I got him actually sign the actual painting in the end, and he was more than happy. So It went from probably a $500 painting up to about $3,000 just with that signature. So it was kind of interesting for me. The following year, it kind of happened again. Orlando and his fiance this time put a bid in for the, I believe this was for the provincial awards. Now the award was a little bit different this time. It wasn't for a best pose award. They were actually going to honor 3 IFBB pros. And now anybody who knows a little bit about the fitness industry, IFBB is one of those organizations, International Federation of Bodybuilders, that kind of oversee most of or the high competitions that happen today. And Canada has a representation of that called the Canadian Bodybuilding Federation, and it's just a division of that IFBB. Vince Warwick is this image here. So I worked with a few photographs from that. We have Lyris Campbell, I believe is her last name. I think she's changed it recently. Unfortunately, this painting doesn't exist anymore because she wound up having a fire at her home and it burnt everything in. And then I got a call from the insurance company asking me how much the painting was, I would have retailed it for. So I helped her out on that a little bit. And then Sienna Kerr, if I'm saying that right, is another IFBB competitor. So we have 2 professional women in Saskatchewan. Ruth, are you in there at all? No? Okay. So, are you retired? Okay. Sounds good. And we have 1 male who's an IFBB pro. And then the following year, Orlando does it again. He calls me up and says, George, we have 6-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates coming all the way of England. I want you to do a painting. And that's all I could tell you. This is as far as I got. The painting got delivered, and I don't know where it is now. It just disappeared off the face of the earth. So, and we actually asked Dorian, talking through Orlando with Dorian, he actually wanted something that just was zoomed in, something pretty plain, something pretty that he can hang on his wall. How he carried that on the plane, I don't know. So in my research, yeah, I'm a bodybuilder. I competed. I want to look at the origins of the poses. And there was a reason for them. And I really got interested in looking at some of the history. Some of you guys might recognize these from your introductory to art history classes. I'm sure you spoke about it. Now, I know I'm going to butcher this word, but you've heard of the contrapposto. Am I saying that right? Contrapasso. Okay, every time I point to you, you're going to say that word, okay? So I'd be happy. So what's nice about Western early classical sculpture is they have a fantastic documentation looking at these different physiques. And even though the physiques, and if you look at Peter in the actual life form itself, you know, we have pretty much a strong standard foot back type of pose. And then there was a little bit of a shift with the hands coming. And then it seems like there's a kind of a collect agreement that by the time Critium Boy came, that the actual pose started to change. And the man responsible, from what I'm understanding, you guys, by all means, I think there's some different theories out there, was a man named Polyclitus. Now, this was the mathematician I was talking about earlier, the sculptor and the philosopher. And what he wanted to do was actually take a pose of an athletic man and make it so that the man was ready for movement, in flexation, but also relaxed at the same time. So what he did is he developed some theoretical rods that were actually kind of placed through different key points of the body. And the first rod was actually piercing right through the actual kneecap joint here, right in the patella area. And if you imagine that theoretical rod going through, okay? The second point was through the hips. Now, with the old contrapposto stance, it was straight forward. But what he did was actually rotate the hips so the actual rod started going down at a roughly about a 45-degree angle. From that point, he twisted the waist and the chest faced forward. And then the next pair of theoretical rods actually came through the shoulder points, through the deltoids from one end to the other. And then the head twisted and followed the opposite way of the actual torso. And then the hands were moved in a different way. Peter, if you could switch your hands around. So now what happens is we have a figure that's now in flexation and in relaxed position all at the same time. And it was this theory, this method, that paved the way for the Crittian boy and for basically all the classical sculpture that you now see back in the old Western world. Okay? Here's another one of Polydeclitus's. If anybody could pronounce that, please help me out here. So again, he's working with that type of relaxation and flexation pose. In this particular pose, we have either a victor or someone who's starting to get ready for a competition. And what's happening is that they're pulling, his hands are missing, but he's actually pulling a headband tight around his head. Now my question for you guys is, where have we seen this type of pose before? Any thoughts?
I mean, since or before?
Anything that you might recognize how this pose might look today in contemporary terms or even in history. Any thoughts?
Victory pose?
It is a type of victory pose, absolutely.
Hulk Hogan?
Hulk Hogan. Close.
Rambo.
Rambo! This one, again, you have that relaxed position. This time, the only thing that's missing here is actually a lance in his hand. Okay, so again, a figure that's ready, flexation for battle. And, geez, I tried practicing those words for you guys. I really can't get into it. It was difficult, and especially with my accent when it kicks in. Oh boy, well, look out. So, again, I'm going to ask you that question again. Where have we seen these types of poses before? Any thoughts? He-Man! Come on, you guys. Jeez. I guess I was the only one that woke up Saturday mornings watching cartoons. So if Polydeclitus had the best representation through the muscular exaggeration and the aesthetic sculpture that he did, then in today's world, the ones who follow these traditions the best are the ones who compete in that bodybuilding industry. And the only difference there is as opposed to being sculpted out of the muscle, they actually do the physical damage to the body, and they build their bodies through recovery and healing and nutrition based on the blood living tissue. So when the bodybuilder presents its aesthetic itself on the competition stage, then the story of that individual, man or woman, on that stage carries or starts to represent that storytelling of that individual. And what you don't see on the stage is that when you're on stage and you're in preparation for a year, 3 months, depending who, everyone's a little bit different, but you're on that stage in Saskatoon, just to be honest, or not honest, but just in this competition, you have 60 seconds to present your stuff on stage in order to tell a story of a year's worth of training. Just to give you an example. So bodybuilding in its early days had an interesting history. We're looking at mid-1800s. The one on the left, bodybuilding actually started through the physical prowess of the man. You're looking at the games that used to be played, the strongman lifts, and you would see these at different circus type of events, those type of things back in the day. Louis Cyr, who was a Canadian strongman, which I think we're related to, Dad, if I could do the history, because we have Cyrs in our family. He just might be a Métis, to be honest, so that'd be great. Louis Cyr wasn't the first. I know Métis have had a lot of these strength games already, and that's going to be the next part of my my research that I want to get into. Eugene Sandow, the father of bodybuilding. This is the guy that I want to look at, actually. And, just went over that already. So Eugene Sandow breaks the barrier into bodybuilding and inspires generations to come. And he does this through his powerlifting displays, because he was a powerlifter. He was one of those exhibition men. However, the only thing that he added different into his presentation was the actual physique displays that he used to do for the audience. And then from this point, we have, if you look at it, if Peter goes back into his contrapostural pose. Tara?
Contrapass.
Thank you. No, hand down to the side, Peter. Yeah, there you go. Then you'll start to see the relationship of the traditions starting to emerge through. Here is Eugene Sandow on the left with the comparison of the Farnese Hercules to the right. We have Eugene Sandow posing as the dying Gaul. Same type of story almost, just with the physical flesh. So during those poses, Eugene Sandow also became a very good businessman. He published several books on physical training, opened the Institute of Physical Culture in Britain. His fitness magazines, Bodybuilding, gave the sport its future name. So he's the originator, because of his magazines, he was the originator of the term bodybuilding. And then produces the very first physique show called The Great Competition. This was held in Royal Albert Hall in 1901, London. And as the sport of bodybuilding evolved, so did the criteria of your stage presence. So today the judges, if I'm correct on this, we're looking at size and separation of the muscle groups. So the muscularity versus the proportion. We're looking at the condition of the body. We're looking at the symmetry of the body, how well outlined, say, in a dark or a negative space. We are also looking at the charisma of the actual person posing. Counts for a lot, your stage presentation. And the battle for the dominant position. Now this is what interests me the most, because this is what becomes very exciting. Now what I'm going to have Peter do is actually model for us some of these different poses very quick. He's going to start with a relaxed position, and he's going to move into his quarter turn pose to the right. And then we start to see a different side profile of how that story of that physique is read. Now, what's similar to the quarter turn pose, and I couldn't find any images of it, but if we go back even to the archaic period, to the Egyptian sculptures, or even the hieroglyphs that they have on their walls, you know that the size of the individual being depicted tells a story about dominance, or they're a king or a god of some sort, where the smaller people depicted are maybe some type of worker, a person, or whatever the case is. So you have those variations in different size, and the actual side profile. Everybody looks good from the front, but as soon as you turn to the side, this is where all the flaws start to be explored. And this is what the judges are starting to look for. Front double bicep, Peter. Relax. Front lateral spread, or front lat spread. Side chest, your choice. Side tricep, your choice. Rear double bicep. Rear lateral spread. And face the front, abdominal and thigh. So you all right? So as you can see the actual roots, the base relationships in that conchopostural pose. It's just been exaggerated now into a different way of storytelling. And then the final one, this is not, usually in the competition there's two kind of judging periods. There's the pre-judge that happens in the morning. This is when usually everybody looks the best. And then there's an evening show that people like you that come and watch these shows get a chance to see a little bit more of the fun and a little more of the charisma of the bodybuilder. So in the evening show, usually the most muscular is when it's actually done. So most muscular, Peter. And this is one variation of the most muscular pose. We'll see a couple more here in a little while. Good, Peter, relax. Thank you. So as I mentioned, the dominant pose, that was interesting to me. And I started to think about that dominance and what it meant. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just an act of nature in itself? And I started to explore this type of idea, these thoughts. And I really started looking at our legend character stories, because when you listen to a storyteller through the Métis oral tradition, the power of that story becomes alive in the imagination. There's something that's almost metaphysical that comes to life. And you start to imagine these characters in your head, how big they are, maybe how scary they are. And you start to think about the lessons and all the philosophies that go with it. So like, well, this makes perfect sense to me to actually start to incorporate this now into the work that I want to start to explore. So for me, it was time to form, not just understand, but I want to form to these understandings. And I realized the rich resources to the pattern of the works, the philosophy, the power and the technical thought and the skill to be represented in my artwork. This is where I want to look. So we talked about the body and the histories already. We covered that. Fine. But I also wondered, Peter, where else do things exaggerate themselves in order to make themselves look dominant? And it came to me. It was the animal kingdom. We're not any different than some of the animals that are out there. And then the third, I'll get into the characters here in a bit. So I found this guy. Here's a cobra. I think it's a king cobra. And when the cobra, anytime it's feeling threatened, and usually it's more of a defense mode, when it feels threatened, it fans out its skin and creates itself to be proportionally bigger than its opponent or maybe whoever is trying to attack it. So Peter's demonstrating one of those poses that actually mimic this type of posture with the I call it the Frank Zane pose, and you have to understand a little bit about the history there, but mostly with the front lat spread. If Peter does the front lat spread one more time there for me, please. You can see how the lats flare out and the delts and the pectoral muscles are actually pushed forward, and then the legs, everything's actually flexed at this point here. There's no time for relaxation, and this is what he's going to do. This is how he's got to outpose his opponents on the actual stage in front of those judges. Now I know that's not always about dominance. It's not always about who's going to be the bigger person and so forth. Sometimes biological urges kick in, and your demonstration of how big or suave you are depends if you attract the mate or not. So Peter is actually going to show us his best, I mean his absolute best pose to attract the mate. And if you look, and if I were to interpret this pose, clearly these are signs of a sex maniac. Thanks, Peter. And the last one I just threw in there for fun because I thought this was a fantastic picture. I've actually spoke to someone who's seen these kangaroos in person. I don't know if anybody's been out to Australia and has a chance to experience these creatures, but man, they are 100% jacked and pumped. And there's Peter comparing himself to a kangaroo. I don't know. I think it's pretty close. What do you think? All right. That was funny. I've been laughing for 3 days. I couldn't wait to get it out to you people and tell you the... All right. Oh, sorry, Susan. The Métis legend characters and the art of the storytelling. For me, this is something that's brand new. I never grew up learning these stories. It came a little bit early in high school when I started to learn of my heritage in ways. So I wanted to take pieces of what I've been presenting to you guys today, and I want to present something that starts to speak to these three concepts: the storytelling, the posing. You okay, Peter?
Yeah, fine.
You need water?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. If you're cramping, let me know, okay?
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. And so I wanted to bring the art of the physique, its representation in philosophy, the storytelling of building and tearing down the physique, and bring in aspects of the storytelling. As you can see, we have a man who's in flexation in a certain pose, and we have two raven heads that sit on top of his shoulders with a snake coming into the existence of the raven's mouth, or coming out of the existence. Don't know yet. And if you know something a little bit about Métis traditions and having kind of an idea of how that starts to flow, the raven itself is one of those creatures that's been taught to us that has the ability of transferring between two different worlds. It has the ability to shift from this world or to the spirit world, or to another dimension to this dimension. And it has that ability to actually interplay between different worlds. So I started looking at creating those portals that might explain something that can't be explained, with the English word. And that's when I started getting interested into the storytelling being represented by the physical prowess of the person, male or female. Here's another one with the same concept, just using the female form. And again, just exploring those two worlds. Here we have a female both merging in and out of existence. And you guys know that one psychologist who uses kind of that duck-rabbit image? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, when you look at the duck, but you see a rabbit, and when you see a rabbit, you look at the duck.
That was Wittgenstein.
Thank you very much. That's the gentleman I couldn't remember. Anyways, I was starting to understand. I was starting to look at his concepts and understanding those two different types of images. So this is what I want to do. We have stories of rabbits in our culture, rabbit dance being one of them. We actually have dances that are based on those animals. And I wanted the actual head to actually bounce back and forth between raven and rabbit. Made sense to me. This one is still a little bit of a work in progress. This one's a little hard to depict because it's actually based on an actual fact in history, and I had to write down my notes just to make sure I got the actual fact. This one's based on an illustration in one of our publishings at work called, Karen, help me, Willow. Willow Bunch. Willow Bunch, there you go. Yes, the history of the Métis of the Willow Bunch. And there's a story in there called The Battle of the Naked Women. And this was done when this battle was taken care of, from what I could tell, around 1850s. At a time when I don't think the borders were set yet. I'll have to double check my actual... Pardon?
You mean the U.S. borders?
Yeah, they weren't settled yet. Okay. So part of the Métis homeland was to travel around for the bison and so forth. And they came across a party of Sioux. And the Sioux were in desperate need of building their army. They knew things were happening and so forth. And they found the Métis bison hunt party kind of going through their so-called territory claim. And when the scouts had reported this, they set up a camp with their Red River carts for defense. And underneath those red river carts, they had dug holes, and that's where the sharpshooters had lied. And when the battle became two, what happened is that they actually sent out the women nude, with their own nude physiques, out into the battlefield. And as they stood there nude in their forms, their nude forms, the Sioux warriors would ride their horses. And as they ride their horses, the idea was to run and pick up the woman, bring it back to the camp so they could mate with them, and then provide children for the armies that they wanted to build. Because they were having a lot of difficulty with the U.S. cavalry and so forth. So this started happening, and every time those Sioux warriors were coming by, the Métis sharpshooters were pegging these warriors off just before that these women would get scooped up, and then the warriors would actually be falling right in front of the feet of these women. So the story itself fascinated me, that they were actually using the physical prowess of the women to actually defend themselves during this battle. And I've been working on this now for a while, and I'm stuck at this part. And I think with a little more elders' teachings, I might get a chance to finish this. So I'm looking forward to finishing this piece. And then one of my favorite ones that I've been looking at is the concept of the rougarou. I don't know if it's concept, it could be real. But the rougarou is kind of like a shape-shifting character. People have dubbed it as kind of the Métis werewolf. If we look at the French terms, loup-garou is the kind of the French character name, and with that French character name is the kind of like a horse, a big black horse that's able to shift. In the Métis culture, it actually goes down to Louisiana, and some of the Cajun culture that's down there. These stories exist right across the land. And so the black horse, it could be a black dog, big black dog. There's also a black pig. I heard about black duck. So it was one of these shape-shifting characters that really started to get me interested, that this physical being, and either men or women could be a rougarou. And I believe it was labeled as a kind of a curse type of, if you got bitten by it?
Yeah, you would be turned into one.
Turn into one, right? Yeah. So I had that idea. So this one's almost completed, and I'm really starting to enjoy this one here.
You had to cut your ear if you wanted to stop it.
Yeah, or puncture your nose, right? Yeah. So as I continue with my practice, realize that the bodybuilding, the artist tools I use, and the Métis storytelling lessons that I include, I started seeing all these different elements, and we have the elements of earth, wind, fire, water, all the necessities for life. And then it clicked to me. It came to me. You're laughing. You see something coming. Oh my God, I'm Captain Planet. Thank you very much, you guys.
Jim mentioned that he was a competitive bodybuilder himself. He read presentations, but he actually has competed. I suspect he will again. But
Oh, I will.
I'd like to challenge George to a pose now.
That's the way any good.
Well, we need some music.
Well, I'm sure somebody has a phone with music on it.
If you guys provide the music, I will take off this jacket.
What music do you need?
Whatever.
Something what?
Fine, I'll do it. Jeez whiz, Peter. Jeez.
Let's go. I embarrass my kids. They see me on stage wearing a hoodie.
Well, I'm not going down to my posing suit. So.
No more than after I first started competing, and I put a picture of Popeyes on the wall. And I went back a couple weeks later, and they said you're put a topic of conversation. I said I don't quite understand it. You know how many of your former students buy something like here? The you're going to find your high school band director posing to you on the wall.
How are you doing, Marie?
Got a little music going there, somebody?
You want to front double bicep?
Sure. How about this?
Ruth, you want to call it the
Yeah,
poses?
you call the pose.
Front double wide. First of all, I'd like to see the last one, please, from the front.
Oh man, tough touch.
Front double bicep, when you're ready. Left. Quarter turn to the right. Your tricep side. Side tricep.
So you look like me from the side.
Relax. Back. What's it called? Forgotten.
That?
Yeah.
That's that. George has last, I don't.
Back double bicep. Your choice of back. Supposed to applaud when they hit the poses, by the way, people. Relax. Side chest. So your choice of side. Nice choice of music. And this is unfair because Peter's in shape, but front abdominal and thigh, Applause. Finally, crowd pleaser, most muscular. Nice. I call it a draw.
Okay, get this.
So, how'd you enjoy the video? I just finished watching it myself, as like you, and I started laughing again, and this time I got a chance to see the crowd's reaction and so forth, and yeah, such a great time. There's one thing that I forgot. I don't know why it slipped my mind, but at the end, when it was all said and done, here Peter goes and challenges me to a pose off. Now, I'm far from conditioned to be posing. You guys will see in the video that my pants were so tight underneath my gut that it pushed up into a little bit of a bubble gut bonanza, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit. I'm like, oh geez, I got a lot of work ahead of me to do in order to prepare for my MFA, definitely if I want to participate in my own MFA show. However, it was such a nice send-off to the crowd that here you have a challenge that was kind of rooted in mutual respect. And to be honest, that was my experience. Every time I went on stage and compete, it was always rooted in respect that, you know what, you spent all this time training, conditioning, just for a 60-second pose on stage or a presentation on stage to tell your story about your work. And people deserve to be recognized for that. It takes a lot to discipline yourself in order to accomplish that goal. So when all said and done, after the show, Peter challenges me, and I thought, no, I don't want to do this. I'm not conditioned enough, and it's gonna look sloppy. I'm not tanned. I'm not gonna give my best performance. But then I thought, well, wait a minute, this is not a competition show. I'm here to entertain the audience, and so that's how I saw it as. And I told Peter, you'll see a scene there at the end that, well, Peter, okay, I'll accept your competition if someone plays the music. sure enough, I opened my big mouth, and one of the other MFA candidates raises her hand, and you guys hopefully will hear a little bit of the music in the background. And she, Marie Webster, correct me if I'm wrong, Marie, if I got your last name wrong, but Marie opens her phone and it puts up, I don't even realize the song, but all of a sudden here's, dun, 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 you sexy thing. And you hear me burst out laughing again. Oh my goodness. And then I asked Allison Montgomery, I refer to her as Ruth, so same person, but Allison Montgomery is what she goes by today, to call out the poses. And then as the poses go through, I'm definitely a lot bigger than Peter, but he was want more conditioned. So, and there's even a comment where Peter, oh, George has got lats, but I don't. And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks Peter. Yeah, I do. I do have lats. And then you'll hear my dad make a comment. Oh yeah, my son looks like me from this side. I'm like, Dad. Yes, I know I have a little bit of chubbiness around my gut, but I'm working on it, alright? But I did not mind. I don't mind getting made fun of. It was all in fun. And really, now that I think about it, it was a good way of sending off to the people the good camaraderie that we had with Peter and the audience. And it was just a way of saying, you know what? This is your reward, George. You put in the hard work, and now you get a chance to relax. Have some fun. And yeah, that was the whole point of the artist talk, was to relax and have some fun. And it was over with a pose down. Such a great time. Anyways, those are my final thoughts of the presentation, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video presentation. And I'll talk to you guys next time. All right. Later. Bye.